Welcome back to New Rockstars. I'm Whitney Van Laningham, and even though we saw Jennifer Walters hired as GLK&H's new Hulk attorney based on her superhuman abilities, I decided to build a little case of my own. Just how keen of a legal mind is She-Hulk according to the court of comic lore? Could we see the MCU adapt some of her comic cases? Move over, Nelson and Murdoch. Today, I'm gonna break down some of She-Hulk's wildest cases, and maybe even prove to you why Jennifer Walters is a badass, regardless of Hulk status. Now, Jennifer Walters' She-Hulk has been lawyering since the 80s, so her comic persona has tried a lot of cases. But one of my favorite things about the mid-2000s She-Hulk comics is that they actually made comic book issues legitimate legal sources for many of Jen's defenses. In several instances, she literally has the ability to go to the basement, pull a few long boxes, and utilize any and every Marvel comic book as factual evidence. In 2004 She-Hulk Volume 1, we're introduced to the Goodman, Lieber, Kurtzberg, and Holloway law firm for the first time, which is where Jen gains comic book knowledge as a legal defense. So, because She-Hulk Attorney-at-Law is drawing so much from her mid-aughts run, I thought it would be fun to do the same. I'm gonna take a cue from She-Hulk and draw my evidence from her comic history in my defenses of her legal career. Just like in the TV series, Jen's first case in 2004 She-Hulk Volume 1 is actually declared a mistrial. In the case of New York versus Paxton, Mr. Paxton's warehouse full of Antarctic vibranium collapsed due to improper storage of its materials. Jen manages to successfully argue that, because vibranium breaks down the molecular cohesion of all metals, it would also affect the iron in folks' blood, causing life-threatening conditions like cancer, diabetes, heart disease, and liver disease. But although it's very clear that Paxton should absolutely pay reparations for the harm he's caused, the case is declared a mistrial because She-Hulk and the Avengers have recently saved Earth once again, and the court decides that the jury cannot be impartial. Luckily, things turn around for her next case, Danger Man versus Roxxon Corporation. After falling into a vat of hard atomic waters, Dan Germain transformed into Danger Man, a powerful radioactive super being. While Roxxon argues that there's no way that anyone could consider becoming a super-powered individual a negative, Jen defends Dan, claiming that his initial identity died the day he became Danger Man. He and his family are awarded an $85 million settlement as compensation for loss of life. And while I can't say for sure that we'll see this exact case featuring Danger Man pop up in the series, there is absolutely a non-zero chance that we'll eventually see She-Hulk take on the Roxxon Corp. In the MCU, Roxxon has caused a lot of major global safety issues, namely the company's massive oil spills revealed in Iron Man 3. If series such as Agent Carter and Cloak and Dagger are ever confirmed as MCU 616 canon, their list of crimes grows, chiefly the creation and harboring of atomic weapons of mass destruction. Thanks to Loki Season 1, we know that Roxxon isn't going away anytime soon, so I predict that future She-Hulk episodes will eventually feature Jen being a pain in Roxxon's corporate ass. I stare at screens all day, and that can be tough on my eyes. It used to be the case that I'd help my eyes out by wearing a pair of Blue Box blue light glasses, but Blue Box has become Bon Charge. Thankfully, the glasses have stayed the same. Got my little glasses in my little case, and now I'm gonna put them on my little face. Wowee! Bon Charge has a couple of different glasses depending on what you need. My go-to are the computer glasses. They help reduce sore eyes, headaches, watery eyes, and fatigue. If I'm staring at a computer all day, or I'm in a room with fluorescent lights, these glasses are my first line of defense. Bon Charge's glasses are backed by science and tested to make sure they work, which is not the case with other light-blocking glasses on the market. If you've got a prescription, you can get these with a prescription. If you don't, you can get them without a prescription. Just need a pair of light-blocking reading glasses? Bon Charge can handle that too. Bon Charge ships worldwide and have other great products like low blue light bulbs, red light therapy devices, and 100% light blocking sleep masks. Go to boncharge.com/newrockstars and use coupon code NEWROCKSTARS to save 20%. That's boncharge.com/newrockstars and use coupon code NEWROCKSTARS to save 20%. Some of my favorite She-Hulk cases from the comics are the ones involving testimonies from the dead. Not only did she win the case of Briggs versus Nelson, in which the ghost of the murder victim Briggs testified in open court against his alleged killer, he was also responsible for going toe-to-toe with Matt Murdock in the case of Folger versus Rogers. The latter is one of She-Hulk's coolest cases in my opinion, because we get to see Jen duke it out with Matt in the courtroom for the very first time. Steve Rogers is accused of being responsible for the death of Sam Folgers before he became Captain America by Sam's brother Harold. The interesting part? Harold is dead, and his testimony comes from a dying declaration he made prior to kicking the bucket, swearing to avenge his brother in court from beyond the grave. Although Matt Matt puts up a solid argument as the prosecutor, Steve and Jen are able to prove Cap's innocence. Cap later reveals that most of the evidence given to Matt was falsified by his nemesis Dr. Faustus, but he needed the best lawyers on both sides to duke it out and to prove to the public that he wasn't getting biased treatment. With a confirmed Daredevil appearance in She-Hulk soon, I'm sincerely hoping that they get to spar in the court of law like in this comic run. Jen has also represented more soups and defamation lawsuits than I can possibly fit into one video, but each of these cases shed an important light on the gray area of herodom, and she doesn't always win. For example, in the case of Spider-Man versus the Daily Bugle, both Spidey and J. Jonah Jameson have solid arguments for why they continue to torment each other with falsified news stories. Ultimately, the two newsies decide to settle out of court, realizing that neither will win the case, another technical loss for Jen. Speaking of defamation cases, we can't skip over the time that the New Warriors get doxxed by a website called Escape Enterprises. In this arc, She-Hulk uses her powerful connections to find the jerk responsible for outing this set of heroes. The problem? The New Warriors are universally hated for their inability to prevent the villain Nitro from causing an explosion that killed thousands. So public opinion is not on their side. Ultimately, Jen is able to hunt down the doxer and put a stop to it before any additional New Warriors are killed, securing another win for She-Hulk. Because of the fact that Spider-Man No Way Home focused so heavily on the public's opinion of Peter Parker after the death of Mysterio, I think we're gonna see many more MCU defamation suits in the future. True, we didn't get to see a play-by-play of Matt Murdock's defense of Peter's actions, but now that we have an entire lawyer series and both characters are officially working in the MCU, I'm certain that we'll see more of these types of lawsuits against heroes in the future. Finally, we gotta talk about two of Jen's most important victories, even though they technically took place outside of the American justice system. I believe that these two events prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that Jen Walters is a bangin' attorney and not to be f***ed with. First up, there's her win against the TVA, who brought her to their headquarters to erase her from existence. Why? Well, Jen might have kinda sorta broke the most cardinal rule of time travel. Actually, the second most cardinal rule of time travel. The first cardinal rule of time travel is do not go back in time and put yourself in a situation where your mom will try to bang you. But the second rule is definitely that you cannot meddle with time in order to prevent your friend's death. Shit like that is guaranteed to cause a rift in space and time. But Jennifer decides to warn Hawkeye of his impending doom when his living past self is brought in to testify in the present day. She's brought before the TVA for her crimes against time, facing permanent expulsion from reality. This time, it isn't Jen that saves herself with a brilliant defense. What keeps her alive is the fact that so many reputable heroes come forward to vouch for her character. Innumerable evidence is given that Jennifer Walters' contributions to the multiverse as a lawyer and a superpowered individual are too important to delete forever, and the TVA reluctantly allows her to live. But these heroes weren't wrong. She-Hulk really is far too important to lose, especially after winning the most important case of all, 616 versus the Living Tribunal. In She-Hulk Volume 2, Number 20, it's revealed that Jen was taken off-world by the Living Tribunal and forced to make a case to save the entirety of the comic's 616 timeline. Apparently, the LT was looking to replace 616 with a newer, more stylish Ultimate Universe, aka the cosmic equivalent of a hot trophy wife. They wanted to erase that entire corner of the multiverse, but Jen managed to convince them that 616 is charming, not just in spite of, but because of its convoluted history. Obviously, this was an editorial in-joke about Marvel Comics and their reboot attempts with the Ultimate Universe, but it's canon. Jen really did save the entirety of 616 through her lawyer skills. I don't know about you, but this comic story reminds me a lot of the ending of Eternals, when Circe, Phastos, and Kingo are captured by Arishem, who informs them that he'll be using their memories to judge humanity. In the same way that their experiences will have to convince Arishem to spare Earth, She-Hulk was similarly forced to argue for her world's salvation. This might be a little bit of a rogue theory, but what if She-Hulk gets involved helping these three Eternals save the MCU from Arishem's judgment in future movies? I know, the Eternals have the situation covered, but it would be so fun to see Jennifer Walters, space attorney, duking it out alongside Circe with the big red Lego in the sky. I might be wrong, but your girl can dream. You gotta admit, tying in the comics 616 universe with the judgment of the MCU would be a pretty fun way to showcase that despite the occasional misstep or mistrial, Jennifer Walters might just be the most talented lawyer in the multiverse. How could she not be? She single-handedly uncovered the truth about Captain America's sex life, and we as a society can never repay her for that. These are merely but a delicate sprinkling of the many court cases from the comics that prove She-Hulk is in fact a very good attorney. I want to hear some of your favorite verdicts in the comments. I'm sure I ran out of time to list all of her best cases, so hit me up below and let me know which cases you think might pop up in future She-Hulk episodes or films. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Whitney Puppy, follow New Rockstars, subscribe to New Rockstars for more analysis of everything you love, and thanks for watching. Bye!